Hello, heathens, and welcome back to Spinning the Wheel podcast with me, your stubborn but resourceful host, Megan Angus. And this is 2026 Imbolc season, waxing moon in Taurus, lunar week 50. We have a lot of things to cover. Fuck ICE. Fuck fascism. We're just starting off directly with that. The names of the people murdered by ICE is too long to count. And we're 14 hours into the fucking year, okay? I almost don't want to say anything in this place because I know you know. I know you know. And yet, fuck this. Absolutely. 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 Right there, the alchemical word, even thus. Absolutely. Fuck this. But and what? Right? But and what? We're going to start off with all of the basics. Free Palestine. Still. Some fucking ceasefire. Free Congo, free Sudan, free Haiti, free fucking everybody. Free Greenland from us. For fuck's sake. My God. My gods. No war with anyone. Who is it this week that we're trying to start beef with? Who is it next week that this fucking diapered shit stain is gonna fucking pick a fight with? Y'all saw he shit himself on the couch, right? In the Fox interview? Check it out. He shit himself on live national television. You can see the other people in the room smell it. This is the diapered tyrant that is waving his pacifier around and waving his shitty diaper around, and people die. How long? How long, people? How long? Land back now. Arm the dolls. Chinga la migra. And fuck fascism. I hope that everybody is staying safe and warm this week. Not everybody is meant for the front lines. And the front lines keep moving, kids. Okay? So you need to level your skills up, witches. You need to connect with your neighbors. You need to connect with your local business owners. You need to get it together. You figure out the systems that make sense for your community. It might look like what other people are doing. It might need to be adapted. It will probably need to be adapted. Stay flexible. We have a whole year of snake energy teaching us how to be flexible, how to be adaptable, how to let things go that cannot be carried into the future. Step into this work. Okay. My books are open for everyone now. That's literally just the next thing I have in my notes. That was not the actual lead in from one to the other. But just side note, my books are open now. Our next classes that are coming up. We have our Imbolc class on January 29th. Live stream free for all beings on Earth in this time of crisis and intense transformation. There's a workbook and a calendar and a bunch of stuff that I will refer to in the class. If you want access to that, please sub to my Patreon at the Venus level or higher, and those things will be within your reach. February 1st, Imbolc will be our next Hecate's Supper Club. We are going to talk about the lunar cycle basics. We're going to be looking at the 8 basic parts of the lunar cycle, as well as parts of the yearly lunar cycle and the witches' work that we can do in these rhythms. This is intended to sort of give you a groundwork, sort of a ground layer, I guess, of guideline for all of the moons that we're going to have this year. Give or take ish. But the magic that is best suited to those various phases and signs, etc. We may not get into the signs. All right, I'm going to stop talking about it. But Our last supper club was more experiential. This class is going to be more of like a lecture, straightforward class. Bring a journal. We are also going to start a year-long lunar project. The class, the materials, the recordings for that are free for everyone at the sun level and higher. And then our next class will be our next new moon tarot circle on January 20th or February 20th, maybe. I actually meant to change that date, and I don't know what the date is. So it's near the full moon in February, or near the new moon in February. So do that math. I'll have a date soon-ish, TM, right? At the New Moon Tarot Circle, we get together on Zoom. We set intentions for the coming lunar cycle, utilizing materials from the Sabbath workbooks. We hang out with some archetypes. This time there was only a few of us there, and I really kind of went in on talking about the Devil card, the Tower card, and the World card, which are all, major players that we can work with at this time of year for creating the form and function. All of that good stuff. More information on Patreon. That class is going to be, and all the supplies and whatever comes along with it, recordings, etc., is free for everybody subbed at the Venus tier and higher on Patreon, etc. Okay, that's all of that stuff. Let's take a moment to ground into this shit. This is me waving my fist at the gods. Come down here and say it to my face is kind of my attitude this week. Let's get into this stuff, shall we? Okay, as I just mentioned, we are still in the last weeks and days of Snake Year. So I encourage you to continue to work with this energy. I know everybody is very excited about Horse Year kicking off, and it's going to be here in just a second, but it ain't here yet, okay? So allow this time to assist you with transformations, shape-shifting transformations. Did I just say that? Yeah. Releasing what cannot go into the future. Staying flexible, staying adaptable. And I want you to also think back over this last year at times when you chose to adapt to something, and what happened after you made that choice. How did it go? I want you to think back over this last year that you chose to transform something or allow something to transform you. How did that go? What happened there? This is the time to reflect on those lessons. We're not going to have snake energy for, or in this form, right? We're not going to have a snake year for 12 more years. So this is a great time to ponder and really, extract what you can from this, distill what you can from this last year of the work that Snake Year has asked of you. Where has your intuition deepened because you were still and you were patient and you observed things? How has your relationship to your creativity changed? Or has it? The whole, wisdom-based approach is a big thing in Snake Year because it's imagined that the snake coils itself up and observes a situation and waits until the very best time to strike. Were you able to engage a situation in that way? How did that turn out for you? What happened there? Or were you perpetually waiting for the right time to strike and maybe it felt like it never came? Think about that stuff. Work with these ideas. Again, a lot of this stuff, I'm riffing on the notes that I have in front of me, and the notes are available for patrons at the Mercury level and higher. It's $5 a month and higher. So you can see a lot of these phrases that I'm utilizing there in the notes. Wisdom-based approach, intuition, transformation, etc. But we've been talking about it on the podcast for the last few weeks. I was about to say, we were talking about it for a year. I was talking to myself about it for a year. and I am Legion, so yeah, I guess we is appropriate there, but not we, not us, but we. Anyways, woohoo. And last, that I would say about Snake Year is, can you think of any experiences that have started out poisonous, that have started out feeling like poison, and have turned out to be very medicinal. Of course, I'm extremely biased in how I look at the world and how I think about things, but we are very much in a moment where folks might be saying to each other, allow this to radicalize you. And I can absolutely see the metaphor applying here. This being a poison at first, but it turns out to be the thing that heals you, the thing that cures you of, if nothing else, blindness. Yeah. All right. But we will be getting into horse year soon enough. Okay. So snake year is coming to an end. All right. We are in winter, which I think is abundantly obvious in some parts of America right now. My goodness. What is it, like negative 407 or something like that in various parts of the country? It's real cold in a lot of places, which is fantastic as far as I'm concerned, because how hilarious is it to watch Nazis fail at invading a winter people during wintertime again? Like, what? How did we already get to that part? We're already there? Okay, that's kind of cool. Like, terrible, but cool. Like, it would signal an end soon enough, wouldn't it? Because that event came pretty late in the last version of this story. Oh, God damn it. But yeah, winter. This is a season of death and rebirth, of release, purification, and dreaming. And as we move into Imbolc season proper, we are working with ideas like purification, perseverance, and renewal. Big, big ideas to work with here. Obviously, we're going to go into it more in the class. On the global level, when we look at the various holidays and festivals and, holy cycles and things that are happening around the planet, past and present, we also see an echo there. We see symmetry, purification, renewal, and rededication all feature very prominently in a lot of the season, or a lot of the holidays and festivals that we see in alignment with this cross-quarter fire festival that's coming up. Our sun has moved into Aquarius officially. It will be here for a month, give or take. And our conscious sense of self, which is what the sun represents in our charts, and our sense of purpose, all are sort of, flooded with or wearing the cloak of Aquarius. And so that's, progressivism, reformation, humanitarianism. It's also bizarre and radical and weird. Sometimes Aquarius is a rebel with a cause, and sometimes Aquarius is a rebel that seems to not have a cause, a rebel without a cause. Sometimes Aquarius is just being weird to freak people out. God bless. I think we need a little more of that in the world. But sometimes Aquarius is just existing and saying things that are so radical that it's freaking you out. It's your homework to try to figure out which one is happening to you. And sometimes it's us that's saying something that's so different, so off the beaten track, so far outside of the accepted norm that we seem to be almost like the fool dancing on the edge of the cliff, or the captain that is attempting to sail the ship off the edge of the map. We may be the ones that appear, quote unquote, crazy. This is a thing that comes up for us in Aquarius season. But the work here is, can we see the future? Can we, how deeply can we imagine into a progressive future and bring it into the now? That's really the deep work of Aquarius. When we see celestial bodies moving through Aquarius, and there's a ton of them right now, they will tend to take on a more inventive or unorthodox and revolutionary attitude. And right now we have everybody's in Aquarius. Everything is in Aquarius right now. So it's a lot of that. All right. We are also still working through the Celtic tree month of Rowan. It just started last week. We will be in the month of Rowan from January 21st to February 17th, approximately. And I talked last week, in last week's episode, a little bit about working with Celtic tree month imagery and timing and all of that stuff. So you can go back and listen to that episode if you want more information on the granular elements of working with this magical concept. But Rowan is, again, as we said last week, the thinker. And Rowan energy is sharp thinking. It's visionary, original, and creative. Excellent, because that's exactly where we want to be when we're traveling through Aquarius season. In witchcraft, Rowan has associations with, get your pencils out, kids, divination, astral work, strength, protection, initiation, healing, psychic energies, working with spirits of the dead, psychic powers, personal power, and success. Yeah, witches are working with Rowan safely and responsibly. I also lectured you last week about being safe and responsible when you're harvesting things, so please continue to do that. But witches are working with Rowan for lots and lots of magic, but you can see how all of these things kind of are in alignment with each other and in alignment with a lot of the energies and magic that we are working on in Imbolc season, during winter, etc., etc. Items harvested from trees are only for ritual use or magical use or sacred works of some kind, and that's it. Rowan is not harvested for anything else. It's believed by some that Rowan seems to grow where it is needed most. And that's also kind of a trippy idea given what it is associated with. Also, Rowan is associated with feminine energy and the sacred goddess. This tree often is found growing in mountainous regions and sometimes is referred to as the Lady of the Mountain. In those systems where it has these female connections, the tree's nickname often is Witchbane or Witchwood, encouraging the belief that this wood acts as a protection against witches, but these same witches often favor this wood for use in spellcasting, protective charms, amulets, and for the crafting of wands or dowsing tools. And again, we just rattled off a big old list of magic that we're doing with Rowan, so I think it's protection for us, not protection against us. But, you know, your mileage may vary. So, as always, check with the tree first and see if they would like to work with you. In Britain, it's good to know the tree has free will. How about that? Let's put it that way. The tree has free will. They may or may not want to assist you with your witchcraft. In Britain, the tree is known as Wiggin or Witchen. And along with hagstones, these two symbols can be seen throughout Britain, Portugal, France, and the Emerald Isle. It was believed the Druids would conduct shamanic rituals along or among these magical trees to take advantage of their protection and to enhance their psychic powers. So, cool stuff with working with Rowan, but there's very much a straightforward, kind of aggressive, no, this is for protection, it's for strength, it's for divination, it's for astral travel, it's for waking your brain up and seeing what the hell is going on. It's a tool, it's protecting, it's strong, it's driven, right? It's firm in its work, even though it's connected to magical stuff, right? It's magic that's very sort of stern, in my opinion. I don't know. That's trippy stuff. Okay, so those are the larger cycles that we're in, and now we're going to dial it into this moon for this week. And remember, if you love the podcast, you can support this work through Patreon. Thank you to all of my freakish Patreons. You guys are unstable and questionable. Okay, please follow the show wherever you are listening to it now. Please give it a thumbs up on your favorite podcast service. And if you're feeling especially heretical, you can always leave a review, because that's really sick and dope and cool. And while I'm shilling, follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. All right, back to the stuff. We are looking at the waxing half moon at 6 degrees of Taurus, 8:47 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, later in the evening / the next day for everyone else around the planet. In Raven Caldera's really great book, Moon Phase Astrology, they refer to this moon as the woodcutter's moon, and we're going to get into that symbolism in just a second. We are opening up the work that we are going to do on the fixed cross in astrology. And in this iteration, our squares are going to be in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. And so here we have our waxing half moon in Taurus. This moon, being in Taurus, is ruled by Venus, who is currently traveling through Aquarius. The moon sits at 6 degrees of Taurus. Remember all those planets the moon was surrounded by last week? Or we had our whole posse all around us? They are all square the moon this week. They are all sitting between 2 degrees and 10 degrees of Aquarius. Mars, Pluto, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. My lord. Okay, so first let's get into this. This is a waxing half. So what are we doing? In our plant metaphor that we work with, at the waxing half, we have a branch. At the new moon, we have a seed. It's underground, it's in the dark, it's just getting started. At the waxing crescent, a few days later from the new moon, we have a sprout. So it's our first push up and out of the soil. Can we do it? And then we've done it in theory, and so we're up and out, and now we're growing. And this is our first opportunity to branch off in a different direction. Literally a branch. And in my mind, I will think of a 90-degree angle, which reminds me of the square that's happening between the moon and the sun on our waxing half and waning half moons. So these cats are all here with us, right? And we're sitting here at this branching point, which is a decision point, and it represents friction in the process, like all squares do. The waxing moon work is built out of our conscious identity and purpose, the sun, squaring off with our feelings and our intuition, our hunches, our memories, the moon. The aim is to utilize the friction and the adjustment that is called for to bring about change based on what we think is coming, right? We're in the early part of the lunar cycle, so we are looking forward to this process continuing to expand, increase, strengthen, intensify, open up, whatever. And then later in a few days, we will have our gibbous moon, but we'll talk about that then. This waxing half moon in Taurus is a point in the process that we kicked off at the new moon, where we critically examine what problems or issues are coming to the surface around manifesting the future. I don't know if this is ringing for anybody, but this is the work that we're doing. That new moon was in Capricorn. So at that point in the lunar process, we were dealing with laying down a blueprint for the world that we want to build. This moon is in Taurus, and now the work becomes, how are we embodying those ideas? What adjustments are being called for to physically manifest those stated goals? And or what problems come up when we work on this stuff in the material world as opposed to just the concepts? Where are we feeling resistance, internally or externally? Where are we realizing this process might require patience and steadfast determination? And where is that frustrating? Because we just want shit to be nice right now. We just want it to make sense right now. And I know that, like, there's some really straightforward and quite obvious answers to a lot of these questions, given the state of our world, right? And we don't need astrology to point that stuff out for us. But also, these things are going to play out differently on the granular level for each of you, right? For one person, it might be that they've, of course, like everybody else, wants to build a good, safe, healthy, happy future for everyone, but they are afraid to protest because they are afraid they're going to lose their job, right? That's how it breaks down for them. That's the difficulty for them in the granular. For another person, it might be, you know, I'm afraid that the state will take my kids away. Or for another person, it might be something entirely different, like, you know, I do need to push myself out. I could be doing more. I have more to risk, but I also have more privilege and more agency and more direct access to power. And I could be doing more. And I'm really struggling within myself to like think of myself as the person who does that, right? So this is going to look different for each one of us, but this is the work. This moon is going to bring into sharp focus the compromises that we are forced to make to live in Western capitalist society. In what ways have you been required to sell your dreams or your ethics when it comes to survival and physical resources? And this is where the name for this moon comes from, with Raven Caldera referring to this as the woodcutter's moon. They are referring to this as like, you know, when do we sacrifice the forest for whatever resource we think we're getting out of it in this other form when we cut it down, whether that's something to build with or something to sell, or we need the land for something, we think we need the land for something else. And when are those sacrifices appropriate and when are they not is definitely the part I'm stressing on here. It's Taurus. It's dealing with the literal body, the literal house, the literal cash in our banks, the literal food in our fridge. It's like, I got to make sure I'm safe. I got to make sure that I'm okay, that my baseline needs have been secured and protected. And so when we are moving from the Taurus energy in this moon, there can be an energy of it's life or death. And also, we don't need astrology to underline that. It kinda is fucking life or death right now, which is awful. It shouldn't be this way, but it is this way. So all of these things are true at the same time. In what ways have you been required to sell your dreams or your ethics when it comes to survival and physical resources? This moon is going to help us, quote unquote, through profound discomfort on getting extremely clear on what we want to build in this world and what compromises we are willing to make to manifest those dreams. This moon also is likely to be a moment of defining exactly what we will not compromise on any longer, even if it means the road is harder. I want you to do a little research on the general strike that the state of Minnesota held just a day or two ago in response to the multiple fucking murders that are happening in their state. In fact, I think the strike was only in response to the first murder, and then the second one happened the very next day. The leadership of the state immediately received a letter from dozens and dozens and dozens of Minnesota state oriented corporations that were like, yo, so money, hey, you need to make the people happy so that they do the money thing, please. And that was one day in one state. Do you hear my words? Okay? I'm saying we need to get it together, people. We need to get it together. And like I said before, not everyone is meant for the front lines. There are so many ways that you can participate. Revolutionaries need childcare. Revolutionaries need people doing laundry and cooking food. Revolutionaries need book clubs. Revolutionaries need people that they can go and vent to and cry to and freak out to. And we all need those things from each other as well, right? So you don't have to be the iconic silhouette lone savior that the West would like to sell you, of hucking the Molotov that wins the war, right? That moment is probably never going to happen. That probably is never a thing. So stop trying to make yourself be that thing, and also you're probably not that thing, and that's real. That's why they're trying to sell you such a fantasy, because you can't relate to it. And then you look at that and go, well, I'm never going to be that. And then you're never going to be anything, or you're never going to participate, right? Because, well, what am I supposed to do? This is a moon for you to think to yourself, what am I not going to fucking compromise on anymore? General strikes, man. It's one method. It's one method. But I want you to go see the effect of just 24 hours in one state, and how very frightened those corporations were of that moment. This moon is square to all those planet entities that we were surrounded by last week, as I mentioned previously. This might feel like the hype squad has suddenly turned on you. Or it might seem like what was super obvious and totally doable last week is not at all doable. It might feel very challenging, or it might feel very conflicted this week. Where everything was very clear last week, now it's like, oh, geez, it's not clear. This moon is also trine the South Node. The gods are watching. Our destiny is calling us. Can we move past doubt, fear, and other inhibitions to stubbornly insist another world is possible? Can we persevere? Can we consistently apply pressure? Can we endure? When in doubt, when you feel like things are destabilizing, when it feels cataclysmic, I want you to ground back into your values. You know who the fuck you are. Do not let the forces of evil strip you of yourself. Share your resources, stay kind, and help each other stay stable. For our lunar and plant body work, when we are working with a waxing moon in Taurus, we are awakening, activating, adorning, stimulating, and preparing for action the ears, the mouth, the teeth, throat, neck, and shoulders. Of course, as I say every episode, I am not a doctor of the human corpus. I am a doctor of the cosmos. So I don't know anything about you taking care of your body. Check in with your trusted health advisor. And as always, I recommend working with the metaphor. Are you seeing things clearly? Are you speaking your truth? Are you baring your teeth? Are you sticking your neck out? Are you here to shoulder the efforts? And that shouldering thing is definitely something that's going to come up later in the week as well. For our plant body work, we plant during Taurus to support hardiness. Again, if that makes sense for whatever region you are in, if you've got winter crops and you've got plants that you need to be hardy for food source, because they're going to be crafting material later, or you're using them for magic in terms of protection or hardiness or anything, it's a great time. So planting during Taurus will support hardiness in the plant. Plant your roots, do transplanting, do grafting, and also, as we always are working on with a waxing moon, or generally speaking, we are planting annuals that yield above ground, especially the viney crops: peas, beans, melons, squash, tomatoes, peppers, cereals, grains, etc., hay, garlic, and cucumbers. This is also a great time for taking cuttings, for doing graftings, and harvesting above ground to dry and store. Okay. Now, let us get into the global context. We're going to look at our astrology for this week, which is strange. And then we're going to look at our big festivals and our fixed stars and all of that good stuff. Okay, getting into the astrology of this week. It is strange. It's strange. Okay, as I have mentioned multiple times, January 25th, we have our waxing half moon at 6 degrees of Taurus. January 26th, Neptune enters Aries. Now, this is not the first time Neptune has entered Aries. It's been dallying back and forth over the last degrees of Pisces and the first 0 degree of Aries for like a minute now, for, a year plus, give or take. But when it enters Aries this time, it is here for good. Its next retrograde cycle will be entirely inside of Aries. So, one thing that I can say is, in these last, 24 hours or so before Neptune moves into Aries, you might do some pondering on what it has felt like for the last 14 years or so to have Neptune in the Pisces part of your chart. When it changes over to Aries, it might change to a different house if you use whole sign houses for your chart. If you don't, it's probably staying in the same house for at least a while before it moves on to whatever is next, but it is certainly going to change tone. So I would definitely take some time to ponder and think about that. It might be such a large swath of time that it's difficult to tell what was it about it that was Neptunian in particular, or Piscean in particular, right? That this might be something, not to be ageist, but this might be something that is easier to discern if you have lived a longer amount of time and you've had multiple eras. Just throwing that out there. The youth of today, don't get all crazy on me now, damn it. Just saying, okay? But what I'm saying also is, man, Neptune entering Aries, it's a transit. Planets go through signs, transits occur, and this is one of them. And that's a positive thing that I can say about it, is that it's happening. It could happen at a different time. That would be nice. I don't know that Earth is like in the best place right now in its work, right? In its personal process. I don't know that Earth is really like ready for Neptune transiting Aries, but here we go. So it's gonna be what it is. And who's not excited for that? I know I'm doing a really good job at selling it to you. Neptune is our planet of transcendence, but it is also our planet of escapism. It's our planet of fantasies and dreams and bliss and heaven and utopia, but it is also our planet of delusion and deception and impressionability and vulnerability and martyrdom and self-victimization and other victimization. So, there's a lot of stuff going on in Neptune. Neptune represents the parts of us that want to transcend and want to escape. And I don't know about how things are going for you on Earth, but I do know a lot of people who would like to escape Earth right now. And that's not great, necessarily. That's not great. No, given the normal ways that we have to escape Earth, which is, death, pretty much, or drugs, right? Or really, really, really ecstatic, transcendent, spiritual, or religious experiences. And those are all really extreme states. And they're temporary states. We can't live in those places. We have to come back to this, right? As wonderful or terrible as it is, we have to come back to it. So, Neptune represents the parts of us that are very nebulous and vague and foggy, the parts of us that are undefined, which is something that fascism hates. Fascism wants to slap a label and a definition and a concrete fixed idea of a thing on everything. Fascism wants to do that to everything. So, Neptune is like, I don't do that. That's not my gig. And also, some astrologers think of Neptune as a higher octave of Venus. Not all astrologers buy into this idea, so take it with a grain of salt. But some astrologers do. They think of Neptune as kind of like picking up where Venus leaves off and taking the conversation further, basically. Venus represents our values as individuals. I interpret this as Neptune representing our values as a society. And we've really got those locked in. So what could go wrong? Okay, so then let's go to our list of words that we work with when we're hanging out in the sign of Aries. Neptune, our planet of vagueness, fogginess, spiritual transcendence, escapism, delusion, fantasy, utopia, right? The parts of us that seek all of those states now want to seek those things in a way that is pioneering or innovative or childlike. But it also wants to seek these states in ways that are reckless or impulsive or self-centered. Aries energy is energy that brings up, stuff in us that's very me oriented, I oriented, myself oriented. So Neptune wants to obliterate the self. Neptune is a planet of there is no me. It's only us, right? I dissolve completely into the all, and there's no definition there. Aries is very concerned on what do I want, what do I need. So you have a planet that's not focused on the self, sort of being, forced, question mark, or encouraged to focus more on itself. But it's focusing on itself in ways that are spontaneous and energetic and forceful, but also in ways that are belligerent, foolhardy, violent, headstrong, uncooperative, combative. And these are also words that are going to describe the values of our nation, the values of our society. And I think that we're seeing that nightmare play out in streets across America and around the world. We have to remember that we're the last empire that we have gone to war with, not the first one, right? So the stuff that we are enduring right now, that our government is inflicting on us, our government has been inflicting on everyone else the whole time, like all the hundreds of years, the whole time. So it's not like, hooray, it's finally our turn. No, that's terrible. I don't mean it in that way, but just in the sense of, well, we're all in it now, right? We're all here now. Now, plenty of us as individuals do not hold society's values as our own values, right? So we also can sit in that paradox of being Americans and living our very specific lives and looking at what quote unquote America is supposed to be or do or look like. And that is, if you're listening to this podcast, probably really different from who you are as a person and how you think things ought to be. So there's that too. There's going to be that weirdness of like being told this is what you are, being told this is what life is like in America, and then your own lived experience. Neptune again, escapism, fantasy, idealism, utopia. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if the, marketing machine is ramped up to 5,000 bajillionth degree, and we are just blasting the world with, it's wonderful in America forever. What should you mean? It's the perfect place forever. It's perfect. We're only perfect and all perfect forever. Every dream can be solved. Every fantasy fulfilled. All that kind of crap. We probably are going to be shoving that down our own throats too, with people being like, no, my country is not okay, and being told, nope, your country is perfect forever. What are you talking about? Shut up. So I'm really excited for Neptune's transit through Aries, obviously. And also, it's only going to be that way for 14 years. Okay. Here's the thing, as I said before, Neptune has always been here, right? So sure, we can have a level of concern or a level of, whatever, right? Like, that's interesting. But also, we've been dealing with this planet the whole time. Aries has been a sign that planets travel through the whole time, right? This particular combination, well, it's maybe a little spicier than some of the other combos, but it's not like we haven't dealt with these energies before. So, or, maybe we haven't exactly dealt with these energies before, but it's going to be fine. We've got this. It's going to be fine. I may do a thing for patrons that's like a bit longer exploration into all of what I hope and fear about Neptune's transit through Aries. But again, what I want to stress is when it comes to these outer planets, yeah, they do show up in our personal lives from time to time, but they often are really great for understanding what is happening on the big levels of society and the world around us. And that may or may not play out in our individual lives in overt ways. And also, we have 14 years to work on this. right? So, yeah, there's always crappy parts to every planet transiting every sign. There's always going to be something that's like, meh, that's not great. And there's always going to be something that's like, ooh, that's cool. How do we focus on that? How do we maximize that part? And yeah, there is good stuff to Neptune transiting through Aries. I'm sure of it. And if I do any writing or podcast about it, I will be sure to have that list of stuff readily available to refer to. I just have seemed to have misplaced it at this time. All right. What else is happening in the astrology this week? January 27th, we have Mars conjunct Pluto. And this is one of those days that is absolutely your mileage may vary on this, right? We have intensity plus intensity. A lot of folks, again, in those systems where folks think that the outer planets are like a higher octave from the inner planets, Mars and Pluto are also in that same energy field. Mercury, Uranus, Venus, Neptune, Mars, Pluto is how that works. And again, not everybody believes this, but some folks will think of Pluto as picking up where Mars leaves off. Ugh, right? Like, okay, oh no, okay, no, but good? Well, sometimes. Mars conjunct Pluto is aggression and power and ego and action on top of aggression, power, ego, action, plus deep power, death, resurrection, poison, healing, transformation, shadow work, manipulation, glory, it's probably chill. Probably a day when just Earth is gonna hang out, hold hands, be super friends, and it's gonna be great. Your mileage may vary on this day. Why? Because traditionally Mars plus Pluto equals big confrontational energy. It can be very violent, not a word I'm going to use too often for astro transits, as you know, if you've been listening. This is one of the very few that we might utilize a word like violence versus just destructive, but it can also be a destructive day. However, on the personal level, it can be a day where all of the super powerful forces internally come into alignment and you are able to make profound major changes in yourself that have been too difficult to shift previously, or you just have not been able to wrangle yourself on this thing. Now, do those powerful shifts happen because something happens in the world and that's a moment where you're like, well, enough is enough. The switch has been flipped. I've been radicalized. Here we go. I don't know, maybe. Or it might just be a day where you're feeling it and you see it, right? You see it and you understand what's going on, and that shift happens for you internally. But again, we don't need astrology to say that there is monumental, radical, consistent change happening all around us on the planet super duper fast, and that's having effects on us, right? So it's just helpful that we have astrological symbolism in the sky rolling in its patterns, and those patterns are mimicking or in synchronicity with our patterns here on Earth, and we can use them as a means of understanding what we're going through. So again, I want to say Mars conjunct Pluto, ego, ego, ego. If somebody starts tripping, it can go south real bad, or I should say it can go south real fast. Stay safe. Shut your fucking mouth and walk away. Like live to conquer another day. And also, you got free will, which if a motherfucker needs to be told and you're the one that needs to do the telling, then handle business, right? But I'm also saying this is one of those few transits where stuff can suddenly explode and suddenly get very destructive very quickly. So, again, your mileage may vary, but if there is a way for you to work with the energy internally, it is an opportunity to get a lot of stuff done or to make this profound change. Okay. Also on this day, January 27th, our moon enters Gemini. And then on January 29th, we will have our gibbous moon at 24 degrees of Gemini. I'm going to talk about that more as we go through our fixed stars and holy days here in just a second. Also on this day, January 29th, we will have Mercury conjunct Venus. So the only two transits that we have this entire week are, well, three technically, I guess. The 26th, Neptune enters Aries. The 27th, Mars conjunct Pluto. And then the 29th, Mercury conjunct Venus. Mercury conjunct Venus, lovely transit, fine transit, fantastic transit, delicious, lovely, wonderful. Very fast, right? It's going to last a day at the most. This is pulling a deep focus to art and creativity. Go look at some art. If there's a local art walk that night in your area, go check it out. Go to a gallery, go see some live music, go hang out and enjoy creativity, or be creative. Host an art night at your house. Create, create, create. So helpful in channeling stress, channeling anxiety, and channeling fear. Artwork helps so much with that. So that's a great way to use this transit just all by itself. But this is also a fantastic day for telling people that you love them, especially if there's been somebody that you've been like afraid to talk to. This might be a really powerful day for that. And Mercury and Venus both are in Aquarius while this is happening. And this can also be a very powerful day to pull out into the abstract and see the pattern on the trestle board, which is a magical phrase that you can do a little homework around. But this might be a really powerful day for being able to pull back and see more of the picture than you have been seeing, to see a broader scope of things. It might be more abstract in just the sense of like you're able to be more objective and philosophical about stuff. That might help. Right? If you're feeling just too overwhelmed, we might need to just have a little tiny disassociation for a treat, as we do recommend here on the podcast from time to time, right? With moderation, just a little bit, okay? But also this might be a day where, you've been doing your work, which you've been living in this world, you've been experiencing these cataclysmic changes. You might see some pattern on this day. You might see some shit on this day. Have your magical journal at hand. Be ready to jot down or talk into your phone or whatever you need to do to record those insights if they come through. Either way, a lovely day throughout. Make some art. Tell people that you love them. All the good shit. All right, that's our astrology for the week. So now let's get into the fixed stars and the holy days that we're looking through. Remember, you can stay connected to this work by following this podcast wherever you are listening. And while you're here on this platform, please leave a like, please leave a comment. You can also join my newsletter through my website. You can follow me on Blue Sky or Instagram. And I mean, technically, I guess I'm on Facebook too, but I'm kind of a ghost over there. Or the easiest way to stay connected to the podcast and all of my work is join my Patreon. Folks get all kinds of support, exclusive classes, free stuff, and a bunch of other cool shit. Join now and change your life forever. Probably. Life-changing magic is not guaranteed. I mean, it kind of is. It's implied. Oh, for legal purposes, it's entertainment. It's only okay, whatever. Stuff. All right, what are we getting into? January 25th for the 15th time. That is our waxing half moon at 6 degrees of Taurus. Also, January 25th, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Al-Shat. This is found in the constellation Capricorn. This is the sheep to be slaughtered. Also on this day, the heliacal rising of the fixed star Oculus, which is basically rising at exactly the same time as the fixed star Bos, or Boss, B-O-S. Oculus, both are found in Capricorn. Oculus means eye. This is the right eye of the goat. And Bos, or Boss, this is the ox hanged by the rope. This star is found in Capricorn's face, and it means ox or cow. And I don't have a lot more on those characters, but I'm burbling in the background. I'm hoping to be able to say more about those stars in the future, but I don't know. Okay. Also on this day, running from January 25th through January 30th, from our ancient Egyptian friends and ancestors, we have the festival of Amen Amenet. The ancient Egyptian goddess Amentet, also known as Ament, Amentit, Imentet, Imentit, or Amenet, was the consort of Aken, the ferryman of the dead. Her name means she of the West. And this is not just a geographical statement, although some folks do think that this goddess may have originated in Libya, which is west of Egypt. But as the sun set in the west, it was associated with death and the netherworld. And yes, this is where the god Set gets their name, because the Set, or actually I should say, because of the god Set, we have sunset, as in the sun goes to die on the western horizon every day. It's amazing. Okay. The name Amentet referred to both the west bank of the Nile and to the world of the dead, and the dead were sometimes known as Westerners. Bitch, I mean... But I digress. Originally, Amenti, or Amentet, was considered to be the place where the sun set at the entrance to the netherworld, but the name was soon applied to cemeteries and tombs across Egypt. As a goddess of the dead, Amentet is thought to have lived in a tree at the edge of the desert overlooking the gates to the underworld. She was often depicted in tombs and coffins protecting the dead. However, she's also a fertility goddess. She met the souls of the recently deceased and offered them bread and water before ushering them into the realm of the dead. This sustenance revitalized them and prepared them for the rebirth of their souls and the trials they would face on their way to the field of reeds, or paradise. We are going to see more and more festivals or holy moments or rituals honoring the dead, honoring dead ancestors, honoring the energies of the deceased as we move toward and through Imbolc season. As I mentioned last week, we get a lot of that. Yeah, we'll talk about that more in the Imbolc class, but yes, it does come up quite a bit. Also on this day, from our Welsh friends and ancestors, we have St. Dwynen's Day, the Welsh equivalent to Valentine's Day. It is celebrated on January 25th. St. Dwynwen was is the Welsh patron saint of lovers. They are also known for healing, and they had a sacred well next to their church, known for its sacred fortune-telling fish. Carved wooden spoons were also very sacred to her. Interesting. All right, that moves us to January 26th, where we see Neptune entering Aries. Ideals, fantasies, and delusions become childlike, aggressive, confrontational, and courageous. There are good sides to this stuff. It's a spicy blend. It's a spicy mix. All right, January 27th. January 27th, this is where we see Mars conjunct Pluto. So again, there's lots of opportunities there for that hyper-ego energy, potentially reaching into violent action, at the least destructive stuff. Keep yourselves safe, but also in whatever ways are safe for you to access that power. Make the flip, make the switch, make the changes that are there to be made. This is a great week for it. Okay, also on this day, we see the moon enter Gemini. And then also on this day, from our friends and ancestors in Scotland, we have the infamous holiday of Up Helliah. This literally means Up Holy Day All, and is a type of fire festival held annually somewhere between January and March in various communities all over Scotland. It marks the end of the Yule season, and the celebrations often involve torchlit processions by squads of folks in various types of costumes called geysers that culminate in the burning of an imitation Viking galley or Viking ship, which is fantastic. We love this. So you may be surprised to know that there is a lot of whimsy, there is a lot of frolicking, there is a fair amount of gallivanting, and definitely a soupçon of getting absolutely smashed and hollering in the streets, plus fire. So, pagan shit, right? Pretty straightforward. The current Lerwick celebration grew out of the older Yule tradition of tar barreling, which took place at Christmas and New Year's as well as up Heliah. Squads of young folks would drag barrels of burning tar through town on sledges, as you do, making mischief. Duh, right? Again, this is a holy act. We're doing this for your soul and your spirit. You're welcome. Concern over public safety and levels of drunkenness. Come on. Led to a change in the celebrations. You love to see it. And saw them drawing inspiration from the island's Viking history after the abolition of tar barreling in the late 1800s. Permission was eventually obtained for torch processions. And, the first one took place very soon after, 1876. So these cats have been wilding it out at this time of year for some time now. So, again, carousing in the streets, drinking, hollering, and burning shit. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I am saying, okay? Also on this day, from our friends and ancestors in Monaco, we have Saint Devota's Day. All I know is that this saint is connected to boats and fish. That's all I got for you. I'm sure that connects to something else in this time period, probably. Sure. Oh, wait, we had a fortune-telling fish 2 days ago. So maybe, right. All right. From our Georgian friends and ancestors, that is the country, not the state, we have Saint Nino's Day. Saint Nino is a healer, is connected to grapevine crosses, which interestingly, it looks like an inverted form of the rune Elhaz, which we're working with right now. We're just about to go into that rune for this week. So interesting, trippy and weird. And also on this day, from our Serbian friends and ancestors, we have Saint Sava's Day. Sava is known as an enlightener, and was the first archbishop of the Serbian church. They founded Serbian law. They were a diplomat. They were thought of as a teacher and a theologian and a diplomat and a legislator. And why I include this is because, to me, they echo distinctly a lot of the things that we attribute to the goddess Bridget, as well as goddesses like Saraswati and a lot of the other sort of wisdom, intelligence, crafting goddesses and gods that we work with during Imbolc season. January 28th, running through February 11th, we will have the runic half month of Elwaz or Elhaz. I'm going to talk about this more at the end. I don't talk about the runes too much, but I'm talking about it more at the end. But it kicks off on the 28th. Also on the 28th, from our Roman friends and ancestors, we have the Ludi Genealizi. This runs January 28th, 29th. The Ludi Genealizi literally means games for the spirit of the people, or games for the genius of the people. These games, and lots of the Ludi that are held throughout the year, are literally meant to be massive public distractions to keep spirits up, to keep people shopping, to keep people in the city and doing things in the city. I am dead ass, absolutely serious. And isn't it just a strange coincidence? Isn't it just a wacky coincidence that we're going to have the Ludi Genealizi always happening at this time of year in the ancient Roman calendar, and we're always going to have the Super Bowl at the same time of year? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Get out of my face right now. And also on this day, January 28th, we have the International Mobilization Day Against Nuclear War. We might want to fire this bad boy back up. I mean, folks are getting a little itchy around the trigger finger, getting a little sassy with the red button these days. I think that we maybe need to focus on the no war thing, on the against war part. This day is celebrated to pay tribute to the victims of the first nuclear attack on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Even after so many years, the people of Nagasaki and Hiroshima are still suffering from the after effects of the atomic bombing. So it reminds us of the long-term effects of nuclear weapons. Awareness against nuclear weapons, prohibition of nuclear weapons, and to, of course, protect each other and our environment and our planet and our future. and are fucking present, for fuck's sake. All right, that brings us to January 29th, where we are going to see our gibbous moon at 24 degrees Gemini, 5:44 a.m. Pacific Standard Time later in the day / the next day for everybody else around the planet. Our gibbous moon is halfway between the waxing half and the full. So we'll have our waxing half. A few days later, we have our gibbous. And then just a few days later, we're going to have our full moon. The gibbous moon feels like momentum. The gibbous moon feels like the system is starting to speed up. It's starting to pick up. Something is starting to happen. The metaphor that we work with is the vine. So again, back to our plant metaphor. New moon, seed. Waxing crescent, a sprout. Waxing half, a branch. Gibbous, a vine. So the decisions that we're making, the friction that we've been feeling, the decisions start to lock in and make sense. The friction starts to give way to synthesis and like an understanding of like, oh, this is how it works. We level up, we get a little better at the thing, we make some adjustments, we make some decisions, and we keep pushing. We keep moving forward. And then here we come into the energy of the gibbous moon that's ready to carry us forward towards fulfillment at the full moon. Now this gibbous moon is in Gemini, right? And we've already got quite the spicy week. We've already got a very cool, lovely, helpful transit with Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, hanging out with Venus. The gibbous moon in Gemini is all about real talk. It is all about being very clear with your words and being confident and certain enough to wield your words like swords, to wield your words like sharp things. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to be discriminating with your communications, whether that's body language or verbal language, whether that's text messages or emails, whether that's the general messages that you're sending out to the universe and the people around you, or it's the literal words that are coming out of your mouth. This is a moon that encourages deep discernment. That's a potent word. It's a word that we often have to use with Gemini, discernment. But to be able to cut a bitch, to be able to speak truth to power, to say exactly what needs to be said in as few words as possible, as distinctly and succinctly as possible. That's what this moon is all about. So talk your shit, right? But make sure you know what you're talking about and make sure you're saying the right thing to the right person. That stuff is what's going on there. For our lunar body work with a gibbous moon in Gemini, we're awakening, adorning, activating, stimulating, and preparing for action. The shoulders again. Yes, there's a little bit of mutual rulership overlap with Taurus and Gemini on the shoulders. But also the elbows, wrists, arms, hands, and armpits. So the whole arm complex is kind of under the auspices of Gemini. When we are doing our plant body work with Gemini, we are doing pest control, disease control. We might be plowing or weeding or pruning. We might be cutting wood. This can be a good time to aerate your soil. That's another way of thinking of plowing. If you're like, I don't own a farm. I live in a 300 square foot studio. What are you talking about? What am I plowing? Other than my proverbial fields of fucks. Then, poke a pencil down into the soil of your plants a little bit, aerate them. Let's get some oil. Let's get some air down into the soil there. This is a good time for that. This is also a good time for planting annuals, as I said before, that yield above ground, like our viney crops. This is great for taking cuttings, grafting, and harvesting above ground for drying and storage. Okay. January 29th, also, our Wheel of the Year class. Follow me on YouTube. If you don't want to follow me anywhere else, follow me on YouTube and you will hear when the next classes are coming, that are live streams. Also on this day, the 29th, this is our day that Mercury is conjunct Venus. So we've got lots and lots of air energy on this day. Let the conversations flow. Talk yo shit, witch. Do it. Okay. And then later in the day, the moon will enter Cancer. And that brings us to January 30th. January 30th, we have the holy day or festival of Sadeh from our Iranian friends and ancestors. This festival is always held exactly 50 days before Nowruz. And Nowruz is the Iranian or Persian or Zoroastrian New Year's that is always set on spring equinox. And so Sadeh can travel by up to 3 days or, a day and a half or whatever in either direction, but it's always going to be around this time, the 29th, the 30th, the 31st, somewhere in here. It celebrates the victory of light over darkness and the beginning of the conquering of spring over winter. Sadeh means 100, and it's referring to the 50 days and 50 nights until we hit the equinox. This festival lasts 3 days, and we see rites of passage for young men that have to go into the wilderness and grab camel thorns, aka wood, which I love that they're called camel thorns. I didn't even know that was a thing. But they have to go gather tons of wood for bonfires, and then the bonfires are lit near temples and near water sources, a reoccurring theme with water throughout Imbolc. And the coals from these bonfires are then brought back the next morning, like the bonfires burn throughout the nights. And then in the mornings, folks will go grab coals and they will relight their home fires from these group fires, these group bonfires. The bonfires are burned to bring in light and cast out darkness in all of the ways that we might work with that metaphor. We see feasting and dancing and singing. There's lots of charity acts that happen during this. And also in modern Iranian culture, this is a day of the youth. So there is, regardless of whether we're looking at the ancient celebration here or the modern, placeholder holiday or celebration that's happening, there is this focus on young men and young people in general. We also had that saint from a bit back, Dwynwen, that is about youth and love and things like that. So this is a through line this week that we will see a few dates and a few saints that are sort of focused on the youth. And that's interesting because we have that symbolism in Imbolc. But isn't it also interesting that we have this focus on the youth, the upcoming generations, at the same time that we also have these festivals and these holidays that are dedicated towards appeasing the dead, which actually I haven't told you that yet, but it's happening. We talked about it a little bit last week. We're going to talk about more this week. Actually, I'm lying. We're not going to talk about it this week, but we're going to talk about it next week. We do talk about it this week. See, listen, I am a trained professional and everything is under control. Okay. Swear to God. I'm going to talk about it right now, actually. Running from January 30th through February 7th this year, from our ancient Roman friends and ancestors, we have the 9-day festival of Parentalia. And Parentalia is this 9-day festival with rites conducted by the Vestal Virgins for the city, but these would have been rituals observed every night, 9 nights in a row, by the household members, chiefly whoever the head of the house is. And then other members of the house would assist. And every night, a different type of dead person is dealt with. So there's ancestors, there's immediate family members who have died recently, there's the kinless family, right? The family that maybe isn't accepted anymore, or they were friends of the family, but they were never actually blood relations. And, is anybody taking care of them? So there's like offerings and ablutions for them. The hungry spirits, the restless dead are all appeased. Angry members of the family have their own night and are appeased on those nights. And it can be food and flower garlands and, but again, it's the 9 nights of these rituals of basically addressing the dead, saying hi and hello to them. There is an element here of strengthening the contracts that exist between the living and the dead in ancient Roman culture. And these are things that we see in other cultures too, other high pagan cultures. But But there is this sense of, again, like strengthening the contracts between the living and the dead, but also going through each of these different groups of dead people and appeasing them in some way. All of this work during this time period that's happening here, it's happening in the Roman month of Februus. And Februus gets its name from a tool used for purification. We will also talk about this more in the Imbolc class, / I've got a bunch of writing on my website if you've just got to know right now, that talks about this as well. This whole entire month is meant as a putting things to rights in society, affirming things that are going to last, and then either saying thank you and goodbye to the things that are meant to be kept in the old year, or again, affirming these connections that are meant to last and clearing the way and sort of, finishing off the energetic circuit so that the new circuit can be started in the new year, which the new Roman year is about to start. The new Roman calendar is about to start. The ancient Roman calendar is the one that I follow. Whatever. Anyways, point being, kicking off 9 days of appeasing the dead. And we're seeing this in a lot of other places before, during, and after this time period, around this point in the year. Also happening on this day, from our Roman friends and ancestors, the Dies Natalis of the temple of the god Faunus. And that brings us to January 31st, which I do believe is the last day of our lunar week. January 31st, the moon enters Leo. And then from our friends and ancestors in Assam, we have Midam Mifai. And this is the most important ancestor veneration festival in the traditional religion of the Ahom people, who are an ethnic group from the Indian states of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. So Southeast Asia is basically where we're talking. This is celebrated annually on January 31st, and it has the status of a public holiday. It was brought up to that. It was a kind of a grassroots thing, and then people were like, no, we're doing this. The Ahom believe ancestors eventually become gods that guide the community, and many of these folks actually have a special pillar in their kitchen for offerings. And so, again, same thing. There's feasting, dancing, lots of charity stuff going on, lots of like cleaning out tombs, cleaning off gravestones, refreshing things, cleaning off altars in the house and refreshing them, and rededicating them to, and making sure that those ancestors all know that they are welcome and have a place in the home, and that their guidance and assistance is wanted and welcome. Would that we would do that with all the elderly in our society. Interesting. Also on this day, January 31st, running through February 3rd, from our Greek friends and ancestors, we have the festival, the multi-day festival of Lanai. This was dedicated to Dionysus and the Maenads. There were processions, there were torches, they were carrying the thyrsus wands, which, if you know, you know. They were just getting up to all sorts of like drinking and shenanigans. Truly, just shenanigans. I don't have a lot of information about this festival this year. I may have had more information in the past. I don't have a lot this year. But again, sort of this beginning to begin some of these processes. And last but not least, from our Armenian friends and ancestors, we have the Feast of Saint Sarkis. This is a patron saint of love and youth, again, right, coming through. Folks will eat salty bread before bed to see their future partners. You can also place a plate full of porridge next to your front door, and if there is a hoof print in it the next day, boom, that's a sign of good luck. That's crazy, but like, I mean, shit, why not? In Capitol Hill, you never know what you're going to find in your plate of porridge when you pull it back the next day. This is an anarcho-communist hellscape here in Seattle, Washington. So it's probably going to be like a really nicely cooked piece of tempeh. Let's be real. All right, that brings us to the end of our fixed stars and holy days and all of that good stuff. So let's wrap it up with our witches work that we're doing here this week. All right. A couple of the tools that we have to work with that are a little more symbolic and abstract for us, right, as we move through this week. One of them is the rune El-Haz or El-Waz. And as I have said in previous episodes, I don't like to say a lot about the runes. I want you, if you are called to work with the runes, I want you to just sit with it, sit with yourself, sit with your life, sit with the symbolism I'm giving you, sit with the symbolism that you're getting from other witchy sources, but sit with the natural world around you, right? One of the deep, deep teachings, in my opinion, and other people's opinions, as I'm not the first one to say this at all. One of the deep teachings of the runes is this subjective experiencing and mythologizing of your specific life and the world that you actually live in. Not cosplaying Viking bullshit, not overlaying a fantasy of misty Scottish moors over whatever suburban hellscape you happen to exist in. It's about being where you are, right? And we talked a lot about that in the last Hecate's Supper Club class on energy work. Be where you are right now. Be in this moment right now. I really genuinely think that working with runes helps us with that because they invite such a subjective trip. Sure, read some books, sure, listen to some podcasts, sure, take a class or two even. Absolutely. There's a lot of people out there doing really good work working with runes and pondering them and thinking about it and contemplating it and checking their notes, and referring to other people and all of that. It's cool. I love that I'm glad that there's study. There should be study. And then also, I think that when we are, as individuals, are working with them, it really is just about what is happening with us. And how does that rune speak to this? I oftentimes find that we will see the shape of the rune starkly in the magical or in the natural world around us if we just sort of have the eyes to see it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, witch? It's like witnessing it. And then if I'm seeing that rune shape in nature, why? What's there? What's happening there? I know there's fascism out there, but one of the most absurd, incredibly anti-fascist things that you can possibly do is fucking have a magical moment, bitch. Like, oh, really? Your fascist boot is going to crush my reality? That's crazy because I'm pulling tarot cards right now and I'm literally doing magic. So weird, because the point on the top of my witch hat still is pointing straight up like the top of a star. Huh, crazy. It's still working, though. I thought your mean, terrible, spooky fascism was supposed to destroy my... Don't. Never mind. My point is, if you like working with runes, hang out with a rune. El-Waz is our helper right now. And for folks that are working with tarot, we have a fair pile of tarot cards that we can work with during this season and this week. When we are working through Aquarius, when we're hanging out in Aquarius season, we can always hang out with the Star card because that connects us to the energy of Aquarius. And also, if we want to, we can hang out with the Fool card because it connects us to Uranus, the modern ruler of Aquarius. We can also hang out with the World card, which connects us to Saturn, the ancient ruler of Aquarius. Use both or one or the other. If you're a purely modern astrology person right now, don't worry about including Saturn. Just hang out with the Fool. If you're like, nope, I only do the ancient planets, then we're not going to work with the Fool. We're only going to work with the World card. Cool. But what else is going on? We know that some of the tarot cards connect to planets in signs. We still have Saturn in Pisces, not for very much longer, but it is still there. So in the background, we have that Eight of Cups card still hanging out. And boy, howdy, have we had to mature over the last 2.5 years. We have really had to level up and create some boundaries and structures and form to how we move in heart space in this world, because shit's wild right now. So that card, as harsh as it is and as difficult as it is to work with, boy, it has been such a guide for us for the last 2.5 years. Thank you, Eight of Cups. Venus has just moved into Aquarius, so we're working with the Five of Swords. Mercury is in Aquarius, and so we are working with the Six of Swords. And of course, this week we have the moon in Taurus, where it is exalted. And that brings us the Six of Pentacles. These are all really helpful cards. They're structural. I know that the Five of Swords is one of those cards that a lot of folks don't like to get because it does depict some kind of conflict is generally what folks think of when they look at the Five of Swords. Well, hey, look at our astrology for this week. Wild, weird. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Look at all that Gemini stuff. And there's the Swords cards. Okay, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. But, the Five of Swords also is an opportunity for people to say what needs to get said. It's important that when working with Five of Swords energy, that we are really arguing for a point and not just arguing to win. We don't need more of that in this world. But we can also look very neutrally at the Five of Swords as a card of, I am learning how to wield my words as weapons. I am learning how to sharpen my speech. And whenever I want to, I can stir it up with somebody if I feel like that's the course of action that I want or need to take. I've got my weapons ready at the hand. I'm ready to chop it up with somebody if that's what needs to happen. So, there's that. Six of Swords is okay, I chopped it up, I need to go take a time out, right? There's our disassociation card, like I said, little tiny bit for a treat every now and then. It's fine. Just come back. The Six of Swords is a temporary state. We're going to go over to the little island across the way, have a little quiet picnic, we're taking a nap, do a little meditation, maybe a breathing exercise or two, and then we're going to come back when we've calmed down. The Six of Pentacles, that's another card that a lot of folks don't necessarily like to hang out with. In the Smith-Waite deck, it depicts a person dropping coins into people's hands, and the folks that are receiving the coins don't look like they're having a good time. The body language is a very haves versus have-nots, upper versus lower, that sort of thing. But how I choose to interpret the Six of Pentacles is I am choosing the most important projects in my life right now that are going to get all of my investment. They're going to get all my time, all of my energy. Will there be more projects later? Yes, of course. Will these things become more complicated in the future? Possibly. Totally possible. But right now, I'm engaging the most fundamental, simplest version of the stuff I'm trying to get going. I'm just going to have a couple of moving parts, and I'm going to get that going, and then we're going to go from there. As an aside, one of the things that I absolutely love about the Six of Pentacles is that every Pentacles card going forward is better and better and better. So the Six of Pentacles also is one of those moments of this is a low point, but it gets better from here. It does improve. But it improves partly because we apply ourselves and we fucking make it get better. Right, witches? That's what we do. We stir the cauldron. All right, my dears. That is everything. If you love this podcast, feel free to throw a tip in my tip jar. You can do one-time donations through my website. You can join my Patreon. You can do all those things. Everybody who joins Patreon gets tons of free stuff. Thank you so much to my patrons. You all are out of control. Please follow this show. Please give it a thumbs up. Please love it and comment wherever you listen to this. I know it's ads, but this is what we do. This is why it's not monetized, is because I do this. If you're feeling especially heretical, you can leave a review. Follow me on Blue Sky. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on YouTube. And I will see you in the streets. Blessed be, witches.